cautiously happy because I think that, of course, the deal on loss and damage is a very welcome one, a very important one for most vulnerable countries that are suffering already the impacts of the climate change. We have seen the situation in Pakistan, the situation in many countries of Africa. 2 years ago, Mozambique suffered a lot with floods. So it is a breakthrough, and it's also very good. It's very welcome. This is a pledge by the most vulnerable countries and civil society for many, many years. So this is indeed a good result. But on the other side, I think we wanted to see a balanced package that also addressed, fossil fuels, as the UK and Europe have pointed out. This is a key cause of climate change, and we cannot just be treating the symptoms without curing the disease, as the EU commissioner, the president of the EU Commission always also said. It's very important that we had a balanced package to minimize impacts and not only a fund to deal with impacts after those impacts have happened. So I'm trying to be more clear now. I'm happy that the fund was created, but I think we needed more on the other side of the package too. We need to reduce the demand for this fund, right? Otherwise, this is a fund of the end of the world, and this is not going to work. But it is indeed a historical decision.
So what changed from when you and I spoke yesterday to what was finally on the final draft? I just want to understand those nuances.
I think that the nuances are, for example, the language on energy was stronger at some points. There was some discussion on how we could move a step forward from Glasgow, because Glasgow said phase down of unabated coal and also phasing out inefficient subsidies. And there were countries pushing for phasing down of all fossil fuels. And there was strong language connected to 1.5. And then the language changed. The language was, the final language mentioned low emissions energy that could open the door, for example, for nuclear and also for gas. So it's complicated, because what we need is really to accelerate the transition from fossil fuels, because that's the only way that science says will keep global warming to 1.5. So that's why the UK minister, which was the host of the last COP, was saying that 1.5 is now on a lifeline. And this is very serious. So I think that we should acknowledge what is good and what's bad. What's good is the fund. What's bad? We didn't give due attention to phasing out of fossil fuels and to what we can do on the side of reducing emissions. Because, we need to avoid impacts. We cannot only be dealing with impacts after they happen. Mitigation is also working on loss and damage to avoid suffering and to avoid the investments we need to do for countries that will need support.
I'm just wondering, as you say, 1.5 is on a lifeline, whereas the tonality, the language that was used yesterday was that it's still alive. So the qualifier is important, as you say, it's on a lifeline. The reasons that are leading to emissions, I believe, is also what is causing unhappiness. And given the global political climate, the energy deficiencies or lack of supply that we're seeing across the globe, how it's led even these powerful countries that were there leading these talks to go back to the use of fossil fuels. Was that spoken about candidly at all?
I think that was maybe not the direct discussion, but that is, of course, the background of this COP. I think we are in a moment of crisis, but it's not an energy crisis. If you think about it, it's a fossil fuel crisis because it's based on the supply of fossil fuels. So we could also use this opportunity to leapfrog to renewables. The world has seen now that renewables are available, are economically feasible, and the society is moving to renewables. There is a movement there that is even ahead of political decisions. So I think that what we need to see is leadership from all countries, mostly from the developed ones, because those are the ones that have to lead the way. But we need to discuss seriously the transition. So I think that now we have the decisions of the COP. We have to focus on the next COP to restore credibility in this process, and we hope we'll see delivering during the whole year, on the decisions that were taken here in Sharm el-Sheikh.
So just going forward, we know that there's going to be a transition committee. What should it be prioritizing, and what should we be getting ready for as developed countries? Because I'd imagine preparation has to start now before the next COP summit to make sure that people are held accountable.
I think that you mentioned the transitional committee of the fund that was created. So this is really important, and this body will have a key function, because the signal here is that we create the fund and we commit the fund, but a fund needs to be put in place. So we need to see pledges of finance to this fund. We need to see the way that the fund will work, the operational rules and the operational procedures be created. So this will be a very crucial year still. But what is interesting about this transitional committee is that it has representatives both from developing and developed countries. And I think that it represents very much the agreement that we got to here. At some point, developed countries were resisting the creation of the fund. Developing countries were pushing very hard, but we got to an agreement. So we need to see this good faith, this trust, and this willingness to lead and to contribute throughout this year, so the fund can be created and operational by the next COP. This is really, really important.